Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thanks for joining us for another edition of our 6 p.m. news over Kamdis Television. Let's begin straight away with our headlines. Cameroon is in mourning following the death of Honorable Kava Yege Jibril, the country's longest-serving Speaker of the National Assembly, whose passing on May 6, 2026 marks the end of a historic 34 years tenure. His death comes after a symbolic transition of leadership which had already begun, making its dispatcher feel like the closing of an era long in motion. We shall be talking health in this newscast, where a wave of celebration marked a major milestone in Yaoundé as Crasset commemorated its 10th anniversary. Specializing in infertility treatment and assisting reproduction, the institution reflects on a decade of impact through in vitro fertilization, giving hope to countless families as it continues its mission of advancing reproductive medicine. Cameroon has joined the rest of the globe in observing World Password Day, sparking reflections on the use of phone and account passwords within couples, a practice many in Yaoundé view as a sign of trust and affection, though it often leads to tension and misunderstandings. In this newscast, we shall be talking to some citizens to better understand how digital security intersects with love and privacy in modern relationships. You have these stories and more in a minute. We begin the news with this sad news where a peculiar quiet settled over the glass house in the Ngwaikele neighborhood here in Yaoundé this Wednesday, May 6, 2026, following the death of Honorable Kava Yege Jibril, the longest serving Speaker of the National Assembly. He passed away at the age of 86 after a prolonged illness in his hometown Tumbere in the far north region. As we speak, he is being laid to rest in Mbada in a Tumbere subdivision in the far north region. Bertrand Tita tells us more about the fallen political guru in the following commentary.
اللهم ارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. Born
in 1940 in Tokombere, Mayo Sava Division, Far North Region, Kava Yege Jibril was a child of the Sahel and of the early independence state. Trained as an administrator, he entered public life when Cameroon was still learning to spell the word nation in 3 alphabets: colonial, traditional, and post-colonial. He cut his teeth in territorial administration, serving as subdivisional officer and later divisional officer, post that taught him 2 lessons he will never forget: loyalty is currency and patience is power. He entered parliament in 1973 under the banner of Amadou Ahidjo's Cameroon's National Union. When the CNU dissolved into Paul Biya's Cameroon People's Democratic Movement in 1985, Kavai crossed the bridge without breaking strike. That seamless transition revealed the first trait of his trajectory. He was not a man of ideological storm, but a constitutional tide. The year 1992 is remembered for the return of multi-party politics, for burning barricades, and for contested presidential election. It is also the year Kava Yege Jibril was first elected president of the National Assembly. He will keep that seat for 34 years through 7 legislatures, 4 constitutional revisions, and the political lives and deaths of countless members of the National Assembly. To understand Kavai is to understand what it means to preside, not to rule. His gavel rarely slammed. His voice rarely rose. He chaired debate on structural adjustments, on the Bakassi conflicts, on anti-terror laws, on decentralization, and on Anglophone crisis with the same measured cadence. Opposition MPs MPs accused him of being the president's speaker, of suffocating debates with points of order and adjournments. His defenders called him the stabilizer, the man who kept parliament from becoming another front line when the streets were already burning. He was both. That was his genius and his indictment. In 1997, Kavai was enthroned Lamido of Mada, a first-class traditional ruler. From then on, he wore two hats, the western suit of the speaker and the bubu of the Lamido. He would have a parliamentary session in Yaoundé and preside over a customary court in Tokomberi the next day. This duality was not ceremonial, it was political philosophy. In Cameroon, the modern state never fully replaced the traditional palace. Kavai understood that. He brought the palace's method into parliament, listen long, decide late, and never humiliate a rival beyond repair. He ran the National Assembly like a Lamidat through consensus, patronage, and the careful management of ego. Young MPs learned that a visit to Mada will be more decisive than a point of argument on the floor. 34 years in one seat invites criticisms, and Kavai received his share. He became the first of gerontocracy for a generation that was born after he took the rostrum. Civil society groups cited him when he spoke of political renewal delayed. Anglophone activists saw in him a francophone establishment unwilling to hear federalist arguments. Yet, even critics concede the infrastructure of his legacy. Under his watch, the assembly moved from the cramped Mesa building to the glass house and Guakele. Parliamentary diplomacy expanded. The women's and youth parliaments were created. The far north, his home region, saw schools, health centers, and roads tied to his influence. He did not legislate alone, but no major law of the last 3 decades passed without his signature of procedure. He was also a survivor. Boko Haram turned part of his region into a war zone. He buried relatives, rebuilt villages, and kept showing up in Yaoundé. When the Anglophone crisis turned deadly, he chaired sessions that many thought would break the house. The house bent, but under him, it did not break. The just ended March session of Parliament will be remembered as a session of transition. For the first time since 1992, Kavai Yege Jibril did not sit in the Speaker's chair, citing the need to allow new energy and the wisdom of party. He stepped aside. The CPDM parliamentary group, in a vote that was unanimous but heavy with symbolism, elected Honorable Datu Theodore, member for Mayo Kani, as his successor. It was a rare act of political choreography in a country where few leave office before death. Some called it staged, others called it statesmanship. Whichever it was, it allowed Kavai to see his own succession. He had outlived Ijo, he would not outlive the speakership. His withdrawal in March now reads like a premonition. 2 months later, on May 6th, he answered the call of nature. The timing gives his exit a narrative completeness that few political careers enjoy. He left office, then he left life without the chaos of a sudden vacuum. So, what is trajectory of Kavai Yege Jibril? It is the trajectory of Cameroon itself since 1973. From one party, unity, to multi-party tension, from centralization to promised decentralization, from post-colonial hope to contemporary fatigue. He was not a former, he was an institution who absorbed it. He leaves behind a National Assembly that is more modern in building than in practice, a far north that is more connected yet still vulnerable, and a political class that learned from him how to endure. Honorable Datu Theodore inherits not just a chair but a method, and the question of whether that method still fits a Cameroon that is younger, angrier, and less patient than the one Kavai first presided over in 1992. At his funeral in Mada, they will fire the traditional guns. In Guakele, they will observe a minute of silence. Between those two sounds, the gun and the silence, lies the life of a man who governed the space between tradition and the state for 34 years. The gavel is now with Datu Theodore. The echo remains Kavai's. May the Lamido, the speaker, the survivor, rest in peace.
وبين فتنة القبر واجعله روضة عليه مستبشرا بلقائك.
And may his soul rest in peace. Let's now talk something else, where the Minister of Water Resources and Energy has called on the new Executive Bureau of the Cameroon Electricity Company, Socadel, to work hard to improve on the revenue of the body. Minister Gaston Elundu Esomba was speaking in Yaoundé on Tuesday, May 5th, 2026, while installing the new team. Freddy Esomo and Promise Akante.
The pioneer executive of Cameroon Electricity Company, Socadel, was installed during a board meeting chaired by the Minister of Water Resources and Energy, Gaston Elundu Esomba, this Tuesday, May 5, 2026, who used the opportunity to call on the team to multiply measures to revamp the image of the company, a call which definitely did not fall on deaf ears, as the newly appointed and installed general manager said that though the measures are many, they will be implemented gradually.
The measures are too many, so I cannot enumerate those measures right here, but you can be sure that we are going to implement them gradually and to make the company successful.
The key to success being hard work, the Minister of Water Resources and Energy, Gaston Elundu Esomba, urged the new executive to increase the revenue of the sector.
They have to work hard. They have to work hard because you are facing many worries. This imbalance financial, because the revenue are not able to cover the expenses of the sector. So you need to increase the revenue of the sector. That is why during the 101st day, you have a couple of action they have to set up in order to increase the revenue of the sector.
With the coming of Socadel, Cameroonians of all walks of life expect results, expectations that do not seem to scare the new board chair, who certainly, counting on his wealth of experience, says the results must be achieved.
This is a high-stake mission, and we must actually succeed by hook or by crook. We must actually achieve excellent results. Cameroonians expect that from us. We're in a position to do that, and we intend to do just that. We must put in the work and hit the ground running.
The new Executive Bureau, Antoine Chimi, Board Chair, Umaru Hamanjuda, Director General, Jean-Basile Ekobena, Deputy Director General, are therefore charged with the economy of Cameroon, considering the importance of electricity to the economy of the country.
And onto our health page, as you heard in one of our lead stories, the Hospital Center for Research and Application in Endoscopic Surgery and Human Reproduction, CRASER, has this May 6, 2026 marked its 10th anniversary. Under President Paul Biya and the First Lady Mrs. Chantal Biya, the hospital commemorated a decade of delivering specialized services, celebrating its impact on Cameroon's health system. We have details of this story from Madoshe Kwiate and Melanimbo.
Established to expand access to minimally invasive surgery and assisted reproductive technology, CRASER was conceived as a center that combines clinical treatment, research, and training. Since opening, it has provided care for complex gynecological cases and fertility challenges that once required costly medical evacuations abroad. Its missions directly support national efforts to keep advanced care and medical expertise within Cameroon. Over 10 years, CRASER has grown into a sub-regional reference point for endoscopic procedures and fertility treatment. The hospital serves as patients seeking modern surgical options with shorter recovery times and couples facing infertility. Alongside patient care, it trains doctors, nurses in advanced techniques, helping build a new generation of specialists in minimally invasive surgery and reproductive medicine. The anniversary comes as Cameroon continues to invest in specialized health infrastructure and local capacity. Its work in research and application aligned with broader goals to strengthen health services, retain skilled professionals, and reduce dependence on external facilities. Its presence has made previously scarce treatments available to more Cameroonians and patients from neighboring countries. Entering its second decade, CRASAIR faces rising demand for reproductive health services and modern surgical care. The 10-year milestone shows sustained progress in areas vital to women's health and family well-being, backed by its founding vision from President Paul Biya and First Lady Chantal Biya. The hospital is positioned to expand its impact and reinforce Cameroon's role in regional medical advancement.
On this May 6th being commemorated World Password Day, the debate over phone locks is playing out on the streets of Yaoundé. Most residents are for the use of passwords on phones, calling them the first line of defense for mobile money pins, work emails, and health records in order to save their marriages and relationships. Melanimbo spoke to some Yaoundé city dwellers and put together the following report.
For many residents, personal data and passwords are seen as a first line of defense for protecting private information. As smartphones hold more of daily life, locks and pins have become a common feature for people across the city. Security, confidentiality, and even transparency are the main reasons couples cite for putting locks on their devices. Residents point to these factors when explaining. Actually, the phone is private and the password allows us to secure the phone so that it isn't easy for someone to take confidential data that's in the phone. Some say passwords protect sensitive data like mobile money pins, work emails, and health records from accidental exposure if a phone is lost or stolen. Others argue that password inside marriage signal mistrust. For these residents, placing a lock on personal phone raises questions about openness and what privacy should look like between partners. I think each partner should know the other's password to avoid problems. Street debate reflects a wider shift as smartphones carry more of daily life. As devices take on greater personal and financial roles, the discussion of a password continues to weigh protection against trust.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, it is the 6 p.m. news over Camdis Television. Let's now take you beyond our borders. First stop in Burkina Faso, where a tightening political climate is raising fresh concerns in that part of the country as military authorities order the dissolution of around 205 associations in around working key sectors. This latest decision coming after the 2025 law restricting civil society activities under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré. Second stop will be in Ethiopia. These stories are compiled in the following report. A wave of restrictions is shaking civil society in Burkina Faso. The military authorities have ordered the dissolution of around 205 associations operating in sectors such as health, education, women's rights, agriculture, and the environment, further tightening control since seizing power in 2022. The move comes amid an ongoing crackdown on NGOs, unions, and civic groups and follows a controversial 2025 law that significantly restricted the activities of right organizations. Led by Ibrahim Traoré, the junta often accuses foreign-funded groups of interference or collusion with armed factions, a stance critics say is shrinking civic space and undermining fundamental freedoms in the country. Rising tensions are raising concern in Ethiopia. In the Tigray region, the decision by the Tigray People's Liberation Front to restore its former leadership with the Debretsion Gebremichael elected to head the reinstated parliament has drawn strong criticism. Analysts and political parties consider the move illegal and warn it could undermine the peace agreement, potentially reigniting conflict with the federal government in Addis Ababa, which has yet to respond officially. Observers fear the situation could further destabilize the region if dialogue is not urgently prioritized. Fresh uncertainty looms over the electoral process in the Central African Republic. The release of results from the second round of municipal, regional and parliamentary elections has been suspended due to a strike by staff at the National Elections Authority, particularly IT specialists responsible for data processing, who are protesting over more than 2 months of unpaid salaries. This unprecedented disruption has left nearly 70 constituencies and their candidates in limbo, including opposition figure Anicet George Dolongwele, while political tensions deepen with travel restrictions imposed on him, further complicating efforts to stabilize the country's democratic institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our 6 p.m. news over Camdis Television. It was a pleasure staying with you. Up next is Selak Chu, a presentation of Tabi Clarkson. Stay tuned.